versus EU. It's the fourth and final round of Swiss. It's Zach Bivens versus Moyen. And I'm joined on the co-commentary by a Disney Lorcana Challenge champion, Vonderland. How does that sound? Does that still sound good?
It sounds pretty good. I wasn't expecting that. I was definitely not expecting that. I was just going to be like, and my co-host or whatever, you know.
No.
You're just like,
You've
boom.
leveled up since Seattle, mate. You're
buttering it up, buttering me up.
the game is about 5 minutes away, so we'll take a quick look at the deck lists. Zach, I think the record of Zach is 2 wins, 2 losses. I wanted to double check that. 2 wins, 1 loss. I need to double check that. Moyen is certainly 3 wins, 0 losses as it stands. But at the moment in the EU, there's a weird thing where EU's doing so well that Moyen could, in theory, win this game 4-0 and still not make it through to the top 4. Because Artabax is already 4-0. And Frank Carsten, who is playing Zansayed later, if all of those guys win, then they're all going to be 4 wins. But we'll get to that problem if it happens. Take a look at the lists. Zach first on Amber Steel Vonderland, but not this one is with a whole new world. We saw DeCandio without a whole new world, and maybe the weirdest card in here is this Nala. Remember, all these decks were submitted a couple weeks ago. What do you think about the Nala?
Well, that's it's been a little popular recently. Wochuk kind of pioneered that. I almost actually played a very similar list to this for Seattle.
Oh wow.
Like it was Wochuk's list, and I was like, oh, it's just good against literally everything. It beats everything except red blue, and it felt like it was 20-80. I mean, a little exaggeration. I'm sure Wochuk's going to be like, no, it's like 35-40% if you're good. But obviously I wasn't good. I played it. I was beating everyone, and I was like, Sailor, I need you to beat me with red blue. And he like 7-0'd me or something like that. And I'm like, all right, I can't play this. And then he gave me green steel. And I was like, okay, all right, works. But I like the list. Nala's just been like pretty solid. You just have to have more 1-drops for curve. And she has a big enough willpower to be able to draw cards off of a Rapunzel and maybe quest more than once before being eaten by a Smee or any other 3-strength thing.
Yeah.
What do you think about her?
I think she's okay. I think I would personally probably rather try and include like these 1-drops which are shift targets, but obviously Zach has gone for the Gaston instead. And I have to say I love the Gaston.
Yes.
So even though I'm not super convinced by the Nala, like I appreciate there's maybe not an abundance of powerful 1-cost characters if you're not going down shift lines, and I think Gaston is a card that's always been quite underestimated with that 3 strength. Of course there's Gazelle, which is also a Singer 5 which quests for 2 but only has 2 strength, and that's a big deal against those Ruby decks for the Brawl. Also Pluto in there being a new card as well for Zach.
Yeah, I think one of the highlights of this list for set 6 is actually the 4 Zeus. Like that, if anything made me want to play Steel Song right now, it would be the Zeus, because this is a genie format, as EU showed us.
Very true.
Like genies everywhere, and this probably has a great answer to that. That said, I would not have wanted to play this in a room of 34% red Ruby Sapphire. Like definitely would not want to play into that room with this. Yeah,
no, that's very true. Like your strength of a Raging Fire, and then along came Zeus, are your 2 big answers to Genie. But that also puts into perspective maybe how good Genie is, right? Because Genie's still trading up to all of those because it draws a card. But yeah, interesting list. I've actually got Moyen's list, which it's called my list on the graphic, but make no mistake, it's Moyen's. It's just this is the one I had saved in my OBS, and it's the exact same list. So of course the deck that Moyen and I built together, it's a Amethyst Steel deck with lots of aggressive tools with Maleficent, Doc, Gantu. Moyen's not been impressed by the Gantu so far, but I'm wondering if maybe today is the day that Gantu pops off. Now I have to say, on paper, the worst matchup for this deck is probably Amber Steel Songs. So that's going to be really interesting to see how that one plays out. I actually played against Frank Carsten on Sunday evening after the tournament, playing Moyen's deck, and Frank was playing like a stock Amber Steel list, and I got 2-0'd. Okay, Frank Carsten's quite a lot better than me, but yeah, Amber Steel definitely a tricky one. We're going to give the heads up to our wonderful judge that we're good to go, because we don't want to keep the players waiting any longer. And we should.
How does it feel to know though that this deck did pretty well?
Yeah,
in EU championships.
yeah,
Do
it's
you
good.
think it was inspired, or do you think it was
Mm,
kind of just like, hey, obviously Genie's good, steel removal's good,
yeah, I think
like
I'm not that surprised to see it do well. It didn't have that much of a huge representation either, but I think that Amethyst is very very good, and I think on paper my gut feeling is that Amethyst Steel should be one of the stronger Amethyst decks in the Amethyst matchups. So I actually think it was a really good meta call going into this weekend, particularly this version with the Maleficents, because what was it you said, like 36% roughly of the field we're playing Ruby
yeah,
Sapphire, and this deck
something
does
like that.
this version of the deck does beat Ruby Sapphire 2-0 very consistently. Um, so it's definitely interesting to see the different takes on it. That's one thing that's cool about Amethyst Steel is that there's a lot of different ways you can go about building it, right? Moyen actually is not, if I'm not mistaken, is not queued into any Ruby Sapphire though, despite there being, I know Sailor's playing Ruby Sapphire on the North American side, and I think someone else as well. We're just seeing if the game's gonna get started here, and then we can hop on into it. Big shout out to Card Market, who sponsored today's stream. Thank you very much, Card Market, for all the support as usual. I do greatly appreciate it.
I wish I could use Card Market.
Yeah, Card Market, just based in Europe, of course. So if you are in Europe, it's the best place to go. For sure. Big fan of Card Market.
I'm gonna have to talk to someone who's qualified for Worlds and be
We're ready,
like,
by
all
the
right,
way.
what's your address? I'm gonna ship a bunch of stuff to your house, and I want you to bring them to me.
No rush. Take your time. Thank you so much. Just having a couple technical issues getting ourselves in here, but we should be good to go very soon. Big shout out to our judge who is sorting us out. It's been awesome. Obviously, Pavel's put in so much work to this tournament as well, which has been really really amazing. So after this round, the top 2 players from each team are going to go into a top 4 playoff basically, which is why even if Moyen, in theory, if both Moyen and Frank Carlston win their games today, it's going to come down to a tiebreaker. But it does look as though our game is ready.
I do like how this is working out. It's like you have 2 brackets, but you don't play anyone in your bracket. But like you're like still playing against your bracket, right? Because it like the people you play doesn't matter how they do, right?
Yeah.
Like I mean, for tie breaks, it kind of does. For Frank and Moyen and whatnot, like that's the tie breaks are definitely going to matter for them because there's going to be more than there could be more than 2. I mean, hopefully there won't be. Team NA here, we need these wins. We can't lose a single game. We're not even playing for the W now. We're playing for the time or the draw. You know, we're sitting there. There's 3 minutes left on clock. Our opponent is at 17 lore. We need to live for at least 3 or 4 more turns, and that requires winning 3 or 4 more games, and that's where we're at.
Yeah, it was Earlmeister yesterday taking down Brendan DeCanio, a bit of an upset in many ways. It was Earl's 4th and final game, and they managed to get the win, which I'm very happy for them. Earl actually beat me at the weekend as well, so Earl's been cooking up. He played Sapphire Amethyst against me and took me down in a 2-1. That was a really fun one, so I need a bit of a rematch on stream to see if I can do it. Whoa, I'm seeing a surprising lack of proxies in Moyen's deck here. I was just thinking this morning that perhaps I should have given him some more Amethyst Steel cards when I saw him at the weekend, but perhaps he's already covered.
I heard they didn't even have vendors there. So
yeah, no vendors. I would imagine it's probably something to do with the like Disneyland Paris rules that you can't have non-Disney vendors there. I guess that's probably what it is.
Interesting.
But that's no intel. That's just my gut feeling.
I guess.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's at like all of the Disney style places.
Probably. Because there was Ravensburger vendors, but yeah, no single vendors, which is definitely a shame. Looks like we're going to be doing a high roll. It's a best of 3. It looks like 8 for Bivens, slightly above average. Or are they? It seems like they're rolling again. Maybe I don't know. 4
Oh, a
this time.
4.
Which one counts? I don't know.
Maybe he was
I'm
rolling
rolling for
for
4.
Moyen.
Yeah, probably. So I have to see who's going to go first. Yeah, that makes sense. You're supposed to use the same set of dice, aren't you, when you're rolling? So
Yeah, I don't know if I would, if I was in that scenario, if I would distrust the dice or my opponent rolling for
uh-huh.
me more.
But Zach Bivens, very, very history player in Digital Lorcana, one of the best known players from North America. Of course, has got, I think, top seed, is it 2 or 3 times after day 1 at Lorcana Challenge
Basically,
events?
if you see him at a DLC, you just assume he's top seed.
Yes. Having said that, he did come, I believe it was Birmingham he came over to in Europe, and I don't think he had um, the
It
best
wasn't,
weekend in that one. Maybe it
yeah,
was Italy. I don't know. I can't remember. He was over at one of them. Moyen on the other side hasn't necessarily had as stronger Lorcana challenge results as he expects of himself. Having said that, he did get top 16 in, I think, Bologna, and then also a top 64 finish in Seattle, where he was a game away really from qualifying for the North American regionals there, because he was the top seed from Swiss in, was he the top seed or was he like second or third seed? I think he was maybe third seed. I can't remember. But he was like in the top 3 seed in Seattle, but then he lost his top 64 game. I think he might have been top seed because if memory serves me correctly, if he won his top 64 game, he was like guaranteed a pass down invite basically. So, but he lost. He lost to Ruby Amethyst Burn deck. But here we go. Zach Bivens
Mm.
versus Jan Moyen, of course. I'm very biased. Jan Moyen, a good friend of mine. I actually introduced him to Lorcana way back when, but that's why we're balancing
Oh,
out with Vonderland here with a bit of North American goodness.
I like. I really do wish we had an NA and a EU commentator, if able, on everyone.
Yeah.
Like, like being just having default like bias, like just being
Yeah.
biased is fine, right? Like, obviously, I'm going to be rooting NA, but like I like a lot of the EU players as well.
Yes.
So it's like, oh, it's heartbreaking to like root against my friends, but when both of them are like my friends, it's much easier to like kind of do that, but at the same time, this way we can, talk friendly smack talk of sorts or something.
Absolutely. It looks like Zach winning the die roll with them taking the mulligan first. They're keeping the Ursula, the Cindy, getting rid of 5. On the other side, Moyen has that befuddle,
Ooh,
as you can see. What are you thinking about the hand
Zach's
here from
hand.
Zach?
I was just waiting to see the storm, and it flipped over, and it also flipped an aerial. So he got
Mm-hmm.
like 2 very powerful cards. But he needs a rage. I think that Calhoun is kind of a pretty irritating card to deal with, especially also with like that Fox.
Mm-hmm.
Moyen's hand's not bad. If he top decks cannons to answer the Cindy cleanly, that
Yes.
could be dangerous.
Yeah, also the
I
one
don't.
drop Diablo is going to be a nice opener for Moyen. If Zach opens Cinderella, like that one drop Diablo is a nice response, because if she sings Storm Rage on, it's just replacing itself. Fox also nice in this matchup because it's a good way of dealing with Ursula Vanessa when exerted. But one thing Moyen lacks in his deck is he doesn't have things like Smash, and then along came Zeus to deal with Aerial. So finds, it looks like a single dock, the one Pete in his deck, as well as a goat. So it doesn't find that fire the cannons. I do think it's going to be an uphill battle for
Pete
Moyen,
could be
particularly as they
okay.
lost die roll. Pete could
The
be really
Pete
good.
could be okay.
Yep.
But yeah, I would agree that Amber Steel is kind of favored here.
Yep. But it is definitely winnable for Moyen, no doubt. But it is going to be an uphill battle for them. Frank Carsten later versus Zanside is like the other big one that's going to decide who comes through on the EU side of things. Frank playing Amber Steel songs and Zanside playing Emerald Steel. Who do you think's favored in that one?
Amber Steel versus green, or Amber Steel versus Emerald Steel. I always just want to say the colors, like the wrong
No.
colors
Don't worry if you
instead.
have to. You're all good. It's Cinderella down for Zach.
Ooh. So Zach did win that dice roll.
Yep.
The Emerald versus Amber in the Steel matchup is kind of interesting. I think it's honestly very close.
Okay. I'm looking forward to that one then. So,
Neither deck really got huge additions, like nothing that they're going to be like, I'm running 4 plus, like 4 of these guaranteed.
It's a bad start for Moyen. The Chernobog's followers on turn 1, not what you want to be doing. You'd rather be going fire the cannons, or you'd rather be going for that 1-cost Diablo. Does give Cinderella the opportunity now to sing Storm Rage on and take the Chernobogs out, which is exactly what will happen. I was wondering if Moyen ever just doesn't play anything there as well, if that was an option. But getting rid of the Storm seems good, right?
Exactly. It's an interesting thing. If you think you could play around it in a positive manner, like if he had another followers, so he could go double followers on turn 2. So if the Storm hit one of them, he could then trade his other followers with the Cindy to kind of attempt a parity. But at this point, Moyen needs Bivens to not draw songs. And without a whole new world, it's possible that Moyen slowly claws back because just doing amethyst things.
Flashbang.
Right.
Hopefully we'll get it. Hopefully we'll get it fixed for you. While this flashbang is happening, we can take another quick look at the players here. Zach Bivens and Moyen. Zach with this Amber Steel songs list. You're not missing anything, guys. Don't worry. And then, of course, Moyen with this Amethyst Steel. What did you think about the Amethyst Steel decks that made it to the top 16, not playing the Maleficent? One of them without Doc, even.
Well, yeah, it's interesting. I've had a lot of conversations with multiple different people. A lot of people don't like the Maleficents. It's kind of interesting.
I don't think anybody likes them, but the idea is they're a necessary evil to consistently beat Ruby Sapphire, right? Without them, you're probably, on average, losing 2-0 to Ruby Sapphire, and with them, you're winning that matchup 2-0 often.
Which is crazy how well they did in a 34% Ruby Sapphire meta. But so for EU, I think the Maleficents are a great call. For NA, where people are allergic to play anything but steel. Like I don't know if I would want to play.
Absolutely.
But it's weird. Like people play Merfolk, right? So
and I think that these kind of like 1-cost characters which quest for 2 are best when playing Madam Mims. Admittedly, though, this deck not playing snakes, which I mean maybe is an oversight. Obviously, these lists were submitted a long time ago.
But what would you cut for snake? Maybe a couple Gantus.
Never the Gantu. Probably like the crabs, the Calhouns, the castles, these kinds of things.
You don't like the Calhoun?
I do, but the uninkable count with this deck is a little bit higher than I would like it to be. You can brick. It's possible.
How many? Let me move here.
I definitely do like Calhoun.
4 cannons. So we got 4, 8, 10.
I think it's 18 maybe off the top
13.
of my head.
This only looks like 13.
Okay.
What am I missing?
No, the Calhouns are great. They are very good, but like usually with this deck, you don't want to be playing a Calhoun or 2. You want to be
17.
Going wide, right?
I missed the genie.
It's really hard to fit everything, but that's another reason I love Amethyst Steel. Like, there's just so many different things you can go. The other thing is if you play Snake, suddenly the Peats become much more appealing, right? Like a big reason Pete didn't end up being in this list was because before you go Pete on 3 and then Snake, Pete on 5, whereas the Pete without the snakes becomes a little bit less.
So so you like just cut the 2 crabs, put in 2 Petes. Yeah, right, you cover there. I think I would cut a Gantu and add an Elsa. I would cut.
Yeah, I would play 4 Elsa too.
The 2 Befuddles for either Baboom or Smash or another threat. But I think Befuddle isn't good enough. Maybe Snake. Maybe the snakes. I've played a lot of Befuddle. I used to jam 4 in like a Chromacon version, and sometimes it's insane. Most of the time, it's kind of mid.
Yeah, but we're back. It's now Moyen's turn too. So the last thing we saw was Zach Bivens singing Let the Storm Rage On with Cinderella to take out Moyen's Chernobog's followers, and then the Ursula Vanessa coming down Moyen, inking the Queen's Castle and playing that Calhoun with Resist.
This is not good for your hero, Moyen, and amazing for my hero, Zachary Bivens, who's going to rage against the Calhoun.
Yeah.
The question is what threat do we play to do it?
It looks like it's going to be Lawrence into the Inkwell for Zach. And Gaston or Ariel, the options. In fact, 2 Gastons. Goes for the Gaston over the Ariel, and we'll sing then the Strength to take out Calhoun.
So
questing with
traditionally,
Ursula. Mm.
you almost always play the Gaston, because if they answer it, it's easier to answer the aerial. But this isn't a Ruby deck, so you could have played it if you were afraid you'd whiff on a whole new world, and we're thinking you maybe hit a Rage or a
Smee and
Zeus.
Pete.
Because if you hit a Zeus or Rage, then you could play that and not let them know about the other one. But this is fine. You just ink the Ursula, deploy another Gaston, and hope to hit. I still think you don't play the aerial.
Yep.
Yet you don't want them to know you have the whole new world.
It's never going to be Ursula, right? So yeah, so it goes. That's an interesting point. So it goes for the Gaston again, and yeah, that aerial can then try and dig for a whole new world. And if a whole new world right now is the 5th card on top of the deck, by delaying it that extra turn, you're increasing the odds of you finding it slightly. So of course, Pete here from Moyen came through the previous turn, which gave them some coverage up against a whole new world. Moyen doesn't know what the last card in Zach's hand is, but with everything now ready on Mr. Bivens' board, there's nothing to challenge. Moyen has the option of Genie, has the option of going Chinabox Followers Fox or something like this.
I was going to say, do you Pluto or do you Genie? Like normally I would say
Pluto
Genie.
in there actually.
Is that not a Pluto, right?
It's not in the deck, so I would hope not,
that?
or we might have to call the judge.
What is
Fox,
that second
Smee,
card?
and
The
Dot.
thing he's inking.
Yeah, it's gonna be.
Oh, a Smee. Oh, okay. There's no Pluto. I thought there was a singleton
No.
Pluto.
Could another great card that could be an option. Smee found off the top for Moyen. Now it's going to be interesting to see if they exert the Pete, but they're going to leave it ready and waiting. And a big moment for Bivens because, it's a Strength of a Raging Fire. But what will Ariel find?
This is what it's all about right here.
If Ariel misses, they could still be. Oh
no!
No!
It's so intense.
It's a big old Ariel moment, isn't it? So you can see the song count as 12-16, but we're back.
He hit it!
No!
He hit it! The screen flickers. Well, he just has to grab one of the off-screen whole new worlds and move it to his hand.
Yeah, accidentally disconnects, and suddenly a whole new world appears. No, we're kidding. Of course, Zach would not do such a thing.
Of course not.
It's also quite possible that the players were still in the same room and were able to see everything. So no, all good. Nothing suspect here.
And if you're a little disoriented, it's the players switch sides on the reload. And the players' screens might not even have crashed because they continue to play pretty flawlessly.
Yes, exactly.
So I assume it was the spectator.
The poor Genie getting Zeused as well. Moyen just slams the Genie down in anger. I can just imagine the little on his face now.
This is the Steel Song high roll, they say.
Yeah.
It could be better, but not much.
No.
Not by much.
Yeah, and that's the power of the Gaston as well. Like, even if Zach was playing against a Ruby deck there, very difficult to stop that Gaston when left ready.
And you were talking earlier, it's like, I don't want the Nala, I'd rather have the shift lines.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. But I also kind of agree with Bivens and Wochuk, where it's like, it's such a blowout to get your Robin Hood like ice block brawled.
Yeah.
It's just like, I 2-for-1 myself. I have no cards in hand, and I no longer have the ability to sing a top decked whole new world.
Mm-hmm. Honestly, I think at this point Moyen can go next. I think this first game is over.
But in these high stakes, like so much pride on the line, like sometimes you just play it out, especially for the viewers. But yeah, if this was a league night or playing with my buddy, testing the game, I'm like, all right, yep, scoop, scoop, scoop.
Yeah. Yeah, the stats on Bivens' side of the board are pretty impressive, but perhaps more impressive is if he had a Sing Together 20 card, he could pull it off right now. He's got 2 Gastons in Aero, that's 15. Cindy and Ursula for another 7, that's 22. And then Smee, 24. Sing Together 24 for Bivens. Sing a 0 for Moyen, by the way.
Did you ever play Magic?
Never. I've not got a single game of Magic up my sleeve. Never once.
You played multiple other games, though. You played Gwent and... Did any of them have quote unquote variable spells or X spells. Like
Mm,
pay any amount of, so an equivalent would be pay X ink, gain X lore, or deal
right.
X damage to target character,
Yeah,
chosen
maybe.
character.
Maybe Runeterra has that, which I played a bit. I feel like Runeterra might have some spells like that.
Yeah. Do you think those would be too good in this game? I feel like everyone inks every turn, and something like that might be too good. But a singer 20,
Yeah.
like
Yeah, I think
gain X
if it's a
divided by
singer
3 lore.
keyword, I think it definitely would be too good. I could see something like that happening down the line, but I think we're a while off that
Not right
happening.
now.
But
Yeah.
eventually, right? Like we've got the power level is going to inevitably continue to increase. It's Calhoun and White Rose for Moyen, two characters with 3 strength down on the board. Bivens with 2 let the Storm Rage on. Not going to be able to take out either Calhoun or White Rose unless he wants to use both of those.
Which might happen, but I think you aerial first because you want to know if you have a Zeus. Maybe, maybe not. Bivens is choosing not to.
Yep, 1 damage onto the Calhoun, and then it's going to be Daisy drawn. And sure enough, the second let the Storm Rage on to polish off that poor old Calhoun.
Oh, he already had a Pluto, so that makes more sense. Since he's going to be double singing, he's just going to drop the Pluto down and make it so all the singers and questing characters can't get hit. So obviously, Bivens is just smarter than me. Maybe I would have figured it out if I was actually playing. Who knows?
And it's going to be a big old quest.
Big quest.
It's me for
Up
2,
to 7.
and
Oof.
everything else for 1.
So we're basically on a 2-tap.
And a Daisy Duck just for good measure. Moyen is not going to be very happy right now. He's going to be going, why did I play this stupid deck that Spessy told me to play? Why do
It's
I
good
only have 1
everything
Pete?
but Steel Song. Why is there only 1 Pete? I mean, that, Spessy, that's a fair question. That is a fair question.
Why is there 1 Pete? That would be my question. The thing is, again, like with Pete, is if you've got the opportunity to rebounce it and replay it in this deck, it does something. Otherwise, it just stalls out for a turn. And I'm not convinced it's really good enough.
Aren't you a tempo deck?
Yeah, you can definitely hit a point where it's good, but I think more often than not, there's better things to play. Like, I mean, you're playing Amethyst, right? So you've already got your Diablo Chernobog's Magic Brooms, which I would never not play. It's obviously harder than ever to fit things in. Pete's great, but actually, from the testing I've done, is Pete doesn't even help matchups like this that much. It definitely helps, but not necessarily enough for me to believe it's worth it.
At least,
I think if you're playing snakes,
at least for my Vegas and Seattle testing, I because bannable.
I also, by the way,
is
I did
basically
play
in your
Pete in
camp.
Seattle. I did play Pete in Seattle.
You did in Seattle.
Yeah.
Bannable's kind of in your camp. He thinks in these aggressive lists that the Pete doesn't do enough. It only buys you a turn if even.
Exactly.
And basically every point you made. But I still slightly disagree. But it's hard. I don't disagree with your points because they are almost all true. My counter to it, I guess I would say, is that the games I find that I win against Amber Steel that I found to be a nightmare matchup all required a Pete.
Yeah.
And so if I expected to play against Amber Steel 2 or 3 times, I felt that I needed to play at least 3 Petes to even consider winning one of the 2 games in a best of 2. Little alone, like, have to play them in day 2.
Yeah.
And that's another discussion, which I guess we can go at because this game is over.
This game is very over. For the record, Moyen wanted to play 4 Petes. So
I know Zan, I think, talked about it on one of his podcasts where he basically was like, you play day 1 because, like, that's the important thing. It doesn't matter if you have, like, the deck that's teched for the day 2 meta or not, like, if you can't make it to day 2. And I mostly agree with that. But I think there's a fine line sometimes. Like, if I could pick a deck that's 65% against day 1, but is like a 40% day 2, I would probably play the deck that had a slightly worse day 1, but a better day 2 percentage if it was reasonable, right? Like, especially after I've made day 2 multiple times and not
There's the
qualified at
scoop.
that point. There we go.
I think the scoop from Moyen could have come through about 6 turns ago, but we don't mind him playing it out just to see that it wasn't
So
going anywhere. Bivens
there's a
won.
world that I guess I can't think of a world. I'm like, what cards could Bivens have in his hand that don't win him the game, right? Like,
Yeah.
his hand is like all Plutos and the docks. Maybe that could be a way that Moyen's the one playing docks, not Bivens. So yeah, I can't really fathom and strengths, but the strengths still sound like they would be good against him.
Now this game for Moyen's really, really big because I think even if he ends up losing this 2-1, if Frank loses later on, it's going to be between I think Moyen and Frank to see who goes into the top 4. So because if Frank loses later, right, and Moyen loses, it comes down to strength of schedule between them, and I would imagine 2-1 wins and things like that are definitely a big impact on that. So he's definitely not going to want to get 2-0'd here, Moyen.
Are we supposed to call it strength of schedule over tiebreakers?
I actually have no idea. That's a good question. I just got sent I think tiebreakers is actually the right phrase.
I have no idea.
No,
in Magic
right.
we call it tiebreakers, but
yeah, I have no idea.
All different card games, and they all like to use slightly different verbiage legally for things.
I'm saying strength for schedule simply because the standings which Pavel linked me listed it as strength of schedule, but I think he was referring to them as tiebreakers. So tiebreakers is probably the proper one. So for mine here, going second, he's going to be looking for the fire the cannons again on turn 2. He's going to be looking for that sort of triple 1-drop turn 2, but one of those 1-drops being a fire the cannons. Befuddle also can do a little bit of work, but opening hand doesn't have the fire the cannons. So what's going to be interesting to see is how many of these 1-drops he keeps on hold of. You would imagine he's going to hold on to at least one, but there is a world he actually mulligans all away to try and dig for that fire the cannons a little bit more. And there's also a world he just keeps both of them and plays it a little bit more safe.
I think I keep 1-drop and mulligan everything else. Maybe keeping a Fox because it is pretty good.
If he had fire the cannons, I think he keeps Fox here, but I think without, I think you're getting rid of it.
Because
instinct. The fire the cannons really is the money card that you need. Having said that, it's only if your opponent has the Cindy, right? So I would imagine Moyen's going to hold on to both of these 1-drops. But yeah, look at that. He's also thinking the same as you, Wonderland. Perhaps the more he's thinking about it, he's not valuing the fire the cannons as much. I tend to be very aggressive with my mulligans of these decks, and for me, it's really, really cool to see a better player than I piloting the deck.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the Cindy is a little less scary since we're on the play, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the question is he keeping Crab because it's okay / it's good ink, or do we just really want other good cards and he decides for other good cards?
Yeah, it's interesting. Again, to reiterate, I never would have personally kept the Fox there, but obviously you mentioned it looks like a couple of Maleficents found, which I think is actually not bad at all. I would be pretty happy to have a couple Maleficents in my hand here.
Without a Cindy, Bivens has to hit a Cindy here and then a Storm. I think keeping the Piglet is maybe greedy, but maybe he just wants to guarantee curve.
Yeah, Piglet does seem like a that's not a great hand, is it, for Mr. Bivens?
It's okay.
He still has a turn to draw the 1-drop as well, right?
Yeah, the 1-drop is important, but at the same time, going Ursula into Pete or Ursula Gaston, and then play Pete, sing removal, sing whole new world, sing more removal, play a 1-dropper. That's how he could maybe get back in. That's just such a powerful card. A combination that could be a way he gets himself back in this game if he doesn't have the Cindy wipe your board play, which he does not have this time. But I need to try to remember a mental note to ask him about the Piglet.
Yep.
I always find myself just completely forgetting everything about the match as soon as the interviews start.
I bet the chat is going to be happy to see that there's less proxies in Moyen's deck. He's been getting ripped to pieces about his proxies, bless him.
Yeah, how much of that is just the desire to tease Moyen, and how much of it is like actual rage, right?
Yeah, I mean, some people were definitely unhappy, but then I was chiming in and also going, this Moyen guy with his proxies, what's he doing?
You're just over here fanning the flames
Of
with a big old smile.
Of course. But yeah, pretty nice opening hand for Moyen. Rewarded probably for keeping that fox as well. The fox is looking good as you predicted, but
I mean, it's hard for Fox not to look good though. That's
a weird
okay
play.
draw.
That's a weird play. So I guess Moyen's plan here is to go double Maleficent on 2, which is actually something I'm critical maybe because we have, looks like we might have a freeze here. I'm critical because I can see Bivens' hand. But without Bivens' hand, I would probably support this play. In the finals of the Euros, someone went Curse Merfolk on 1, and then they went a second Curse Merfolk and a Chernabog's on 2, and I was actually critical that they probably should have gone for the Chernabog's on 1. So I actually think it's a super high level from Moyen. Even though at first I didn't like it, because I couldn't see the hand. If Zach Bivens opened here, they could banish with like a 2-strength character on 1. Then they could have banished the room and gone double Maleficent. So I actually think this is a really high level play from Moyen that they're not necessarily rewarded for here.
Yeah, if you really need to be defensive, you can. You can just like leave one of the Maleficents back and then only quest with one and bounce it just to get the lore if you need to. I definitely find myself like, I'm on the play. I've got Maleficents. I can do it this time. I can finally lead with turn 1 Maleficent. Every time they're like Daisy or like they just wreck you for it.
Yeah, Daisy. I think Daisy is what Moyen was worried about. I think you're exactly right. So I think it was a good decision. Now, I don't like it. I don't like that at all. I think it's
not an empty board.
This is a big misplay. Moyen's worried about his uninkable count here. So he pops the broom, but this broom is gaining so much lore. I think this is a very poor play from Moyen. I don't like it at all.
I think I would have just inked the followers and played the second Maleficent.
Yeah, he would be able to draw off this broom next turn if he needs to. He would. This was a guaranteed 1 lore, which he just got rid of.
So let's imagine that Smee he just drew was actually a genie.
Mm-hmm.
So the top card of his deck was a genie. If he inked and played Maleficent and he drew another uninkable, yes, he could ink, but he wouldn't be able to play the fox. He wouldn't be able to play anything. So I think he's taking the most conservative, how do I make sure I don't lose to my ink route he can do. And he's like, you know what? I'm not going to win this game by 1 or 2 lore. It's not going to be a close race.
Yeah.
I'm either going to like blow him out or I'm going to get crushed.
Yeah, I just don't think there's like I could see that argument if he went for the draw next turn, but this Magic Broom was a guaranteed 1 extra lore right now, you know? The only difference is,
how would he draw the card next turn? That's the problem. If he inked if he drew a 4-cost or 3-cost uninkable,
which is only genie, by the way. I think it's only genie. So there's only
probably only genie at that point, or Fire the Cannons. Fire the Cannons
also
could have been a card to wreck him. He just wouldn't have been able to play a character to trigger the draw. But he, as you're saying, he probably had like a 60-70% chance to hit it. But the question is, do you want to take a 30% chance to lose the game on the spot?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I think Moyen is like, no, I don't want to risk it.
You can also see here what I was talking about, like maybe the Calhoun should get dropped because the uninkable count with this deck is a little bit too high for my taste. It doesn't happen often, but you do end up in these spots where you're a little bit anxious about your uninkable count.
If you didn't run 4 Gontus, I tease. Gontu is actually
Gantu's inkable.
Crazy. Yeah, true. That's a great argument for Gantu or Gantu.
Who knows? Nobody knows.
I'm assuming, however, I said it the first way is wrong. So
I'm the worst person when it comes to pronunciations. I even mispronounced the name of the new set when announcing it.
No. So Azurite C. I haven't tried to say the next set. I need it spelled in front of me to try, actually, because I don't even remember what it was called. I'm a terrible person. Set 7 Lorcana.
So Moyen at the moment is deciding if they. Yeah, I think this is probably the safest play.
Arcasias. I want
Arcasias.
Arcasias.
Yeah, I butchered it, so that's sad.
I wanted to be like Architrez.
So
Maybe that's okay.
I'm
Okay.
also honestly not convinced I like this play by Moyen either. Moyen goes for the Fox and inks the Chernobog's followers. Whereas if they develop Chernobog's followers here, I guess they were worried that the Chernobog's followers. Basically, at this moment, Moyen needs to top deck an Inkable, right? But they could have gone, like, left the Maleficents down and gone wide with, like, another Maleficent and a Chernobog's and inked Fox. Because these Maleficents aren't going to be able to come down for a while now. So it's a tricky spot.
He's just highly valuing that Fox, and he's gonna just get so punished by this Zeus.
Yeah, I don't like the
I
Fox play.
assume, but it's hard to be like, oh, I can't see why he would do this. Like, can't he see the removal in Bivens' hand like we can? Like,
I think for Moyen here, like, personally, my play would be to consider inking, like, just developing the extra Maleficent, leaving them the other two exerted, and then there's a world where you hold back the Chernobog's followers. Like, you either play the Chernobog's followers or you hold it for a safety ink. I probably just would have played it personally. I just would have inked the Fox, played Chernobog's and the other Maleficent. So you'd have two Maleficents three Maleficents and a Chernobog's followers on the board right now. You develop this wide board, but Moyen going for a different plan. And yeah, this Fox getting hit by a Zeus, I think it's not good.
I don't think I would play. See, I would have still inked the followers, but I would
big
have
moment. Is it ink? Fox. It is ink.
I would have kept the Fox in hand, though.
Yeah.
I would have committed the Maleficent and just been like, okay, challenge my Maleficent with your Ursula. Sing removal with your Ursula. I will quest next turn, buy back the Maleficent that you left alive, and Fox to take it out, and then replay Maleficent if I draw an ink. And then that way I have a play in case I don't draw an ink, or if I draw an inkable that is so good, I need to play it. While also, like, committing things that I don't actually care about. Do we really care about Maleficent that much? Not really. What is that set? Is that so he has two Maleficents in hand, right?
Yeah, two Maleficents in hand, a Genie and an Elsa.
That also might be okay.
Yep.
He just doesn't have much challenge power in play.
Next turn for Moyen to be able to go Genie plus Maleficent is also pretty solid. He's at 5 lore already, so he is starting to climb quite quickly.
He's not gonna get to do any of that, though. Well, maybe. We don't know what his new hand will be yet. I'm pretty sure that Ursula is getting inked, and well, it's tough. I don't know if I would play Piglet or Ursula. I would probably play Piglet, but Ursula sings songs, and Ursula is taken care of easy, and we are going into Ursula turn, so maybe we ink it. It's tough. I would like to see what Zach does. I could see arguments for both.
Yeah, Bivens does know that there is that one Maleficent in hand, but the other three cards are unknown to Zach at the moment, and Moyen doesn't know any of the cards in Zach hand. It's going to be the Daisy and the Ursula Vanessa, and it is going to be Strength of a Raging Fire, sung by Ursula Vanessa to take out that Genie, and it will be Gaston singing A Whole New World. And it comes back to this Fox play from Moyen. I think it was a complete error on reflection. I really don't like the decision there. And suddenly 4 cards in hand for Moyen, including 2 1-drop Maleficents.
Right, where's my trusty little notepad? We're doing it old fashioned. We're not even gonna type it, even though we're at a computer.
So the new hands drawn for each player. Zach only with Zeus in hand as a song. No 1-cost characters either, so isn't able to kind of do this super go wide play next turn you often see after A Whole New World. The good news for Moyen is does have a Maleficent still sat there ready and waiting. These are also moments Befuddle can be quite useful off of the top. Hard to make out exactly what's in there. He has a Gantu, which he's going to be worried about Zeus. There's a Goat. Fire the Cannons, I think, is in there as well, which isn't doing much against Zach's board. Awkward spot for Moyen. I think just wasn't aggressive enough with the lore in the early game.
Yeah, A Whole New World is just not what you want to be doing. Um, Genie, I feel like I would play Genie on turn 4 if I had a lot of characters in play, because it is a hard to deal with character that gains me lore. I don't think I would want to play Genie if I'm not like representing pressure at all, which is why I kind of wanted to keep the Fox, right?
Yeah.
Which maybe that would have been, it wouldn't even have really been that punished, right? Because then they wouldn't have had a singer for the rage. So then they're just, the same turn could have happened, except I still have a Fox in play and their Gaston is exerted. So then on this next turn, I could take out the Gaston if I needed to, leaving them just with these two singers, right? Um, and then also have like 2 Maleficents in play turning sideways with 5 ink here. I could probably actually, if I really want, like with his hand, he could crab away the Gaston instead if he needed to. But obviously, if you had the Fox, it would be a different hand for sure. But there's so many options to do. He could just maintain pressure, I guess. He'd be at 9 instead of 7, threatening to go to like what 14 instead of threatening to go to 9.
Yeah, you just need to develop like this kind of wide board and overload the removal. But Zach can out with all the board control with a bunch of singers. It is going to be Befuddle inked, which I'm surprised by a little bit as well, because Befuddle can kind of buy you a turn. It's going to be Crab.
Take out Gaston.
Nah, mate, this is just a losing play. This line never wins. You just have to quest. You just have to hope you can just cheese a victory here. Trying to control the board at this stage in the game, I don't think is going to end well for Moyen.
Yeah, I don't know if it's controlling the board or being like, I can never win a game that he goes removal, whole new world again. It is rough.
I think it's just a losing line though. Like, I think you just have to quest. Not really too impressed with how Moyen's played this one. Respectfully, Moyen's a great guy, great player. And let's be fair, Moyen's been fully practicing with other decks in preparation for the Euro Champs as well. So this is very much not the style of deck he tends to play, right? Whereas it's a deck I've played probably 20 times more than he has. So I'm being hypercritical. Yeah. He's not going to be too happy with me afterwards either, but it's just calling it as I am. The fact that I'm such good friends with Moyen is allowing me to be more critical than I usually would of someone's decisions as well, right? Like I wouldn't do this.
Yeah,
if it wasn't someone
he definitely tends to play blue steel lists, and his play patterns have leaned towards more a defensive, I'll be able to win later attitude instead of a terrified, I need to get every scrap of lore I can get. And traditionally, it's not a great way to play against Amber Steel if you don't have dimes or swords, or like he doesn't have a board wipe. That's the issue.
I think like also going back to the go wide. Fire the cannons on the bottom. Even the turn 1 from Moyen, the more I'm thinking about it, the more I'm not convinced I like his opener of the broom. I think the broom's good if it's your opening play when going second, and then you go double Maleficent on 2. But I think going first, if you have a Maleficent, you kind of just play Maleficent, I think. So
see, and I was saying that earlier, and like that feels like the right thing to do, but almost every time I do it, I get punished, right? But then the games I don't do it are like this game where they don't play a 1-drop, and I'm just like, why didn't I play the Maleficent?
Yeah, he was definitely worried about Daisy. I think that one's super reasonable. But the other things, like the broom pop, I think was premature from Moyen. I think he could have delayed it a turn. I understand why he went for it. Zeus is going to be summoned by Ursula. It's going to hit the Crab. Crab's going to give challenge to something. Smee. I knew he would follow that line.
Also the plays that make Twitch chat think that they're just way better than they are. Not really shouting out Twitch chat or like,
I'm basically Twitch chat at this point.
But like, so you see this play and you're like, oh, why did they do that? Like, that's not the level 1 play that I'm used to. Like, that's not the normal play. That's wrong. And it's just like, well, yes, but they're not doing the level 1 because level 1 gets punished by these players' play patterns that are designed to punish you for doing the normal thing. So he's trying to figure out how to get out from that normal thing. And going turn 1 Maleficent and him and Bivens having a Cindy or even worse, a daisy kind of like which daisy is not great on the draw, but it is when your opponent plays turn one Maleficent or Cursed Merfolk.
Yep. Yep.
And it's like,
Absolutely.
how do you play around it, right? And that's what he's trying to do.
Yeah, I think as we see now, the Fire the Cannon sitting Pluto. What Moyen's trying to do is he's trying to go to like a later game against the Song deck here, with plays like the Crab plus Maleficent taking the trade with kind of plays also like the Fox rather than going wide in the early game. Whereas in my experience, like the longer the game goes on, the more like the Song player is going to run away with it, and it is about getting to 20 as quickly as you possibly can in this particular matchup, particularly when going first and you have an abundance of Maleficents.
If Bivens didn't have the whole new world, though,
Yep.
Moyen probably would be winning at this point.
Yep, that's fair. Very, very fair.
And to go back to what I was saying, if Bivens had the one drop, we would have been singing Moyen's praise about being smart enough to play the
No,
broom
you're absolutely
over
right.
the Maleficent, right?
Thank you, mate. You're doing Moyen some justice, so I'm just sat here being mean.
So,
Is it time for Gantu to shine, by the way? Not just yeah, it's going to be Goat and Diablo, but Gantu soon.
I wish.
Is a captain, by the way. It is a captain.
Oh, that is true.
Which is actually pretty significant here because it would have kept Smee at 1 damage counter and therefore difficult for Zach to trade efficiently. So
efficiently, I mean, he's got a Rapunzel. This is not good for Moyen.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't need the whole new world when I'm just going to draw 3 more cards while also taking out your Smee. I mean, it is possible that Bivens could just flood out on Ursula's, Gaston's, Cindy's. Maybe Piglets, and Moyen has like the cannons for Piglets, or like Bivens can't burst. But Moyen's also kind of out of steam. Like, he needs to draw Doc. He needs like Gantu, take something down, Doc, draw another Fire the Cannons and a Fox or something like that. Draw double Fox.
Yeah, so Ursula able to take out the Smee, Rapunzel coming through, 3 cards drawn. Of course, if the Gantu came down here, the Smee would still be at 1 damage and would have required a double challenge from Ursula's here. But that's
Which is
quite
also
a lot of cards in hand for Bivens now.
Yeah, since you're guaranteed to give a Rapunzel draw, maybe it's worth forcing a double Rapunzel draw because you have the Fire the Cannon, so you can at least finish off the other Ursula. I don't think there's a way. My brain obviously just turned off, and I can't remember 2 turns ago to think if there's a reason to even not challenge with Smee, but I think we have to take down Pluto no matter what.
Yeah, and Daisy now going to quest. And
Doc.
Fire the Cannons was hit last time. Oh, it's Captain Cranky Head. I mean, if ever there was a time for a couple of Captain Cranky Heads, it would be about now.
It does quest for 4.
This card's absolutely absurd. It's so good.
If both Ariels whiff, there is a world we go to game 3.
Yep.
Because Gantu hits so hard.
Yeah.
And we're already at 8. So
and like this also comes back to the way I would play at Wonderland. Like, you know, like this whole thing of like dealing with Pluto. I would just not deal with Pluto and I would just turn sideways in quest. Whereas Moyen's trying to go about it at like a higher level and take some really efficient trades and just about cross the finish line while doing enough board control. Whereas I'm playing like at a much lower level and I'm just questing in this kind of matchup when going first.
So you'd be at 10, he'd be at 8, and you would be playing a Gantu and hoping he doesn't have removal.
It's nice. Fox and Goat value. Go take out the Ursula. Fox bouncing the Goat back, gaining law. Of course, the Fox now can rush in, and suddenly Moyen's decisions to take. Oh no!
Yeah, the Goat's better.
Not
the Goat's
Captain
better.
Cranky Head.
He has another one. It's okay. It's okay.
Aww.
He has to ink that one, right? Because Bivens knows about it.
Yeah.
So Bivens will keep an answer for that card because it's such a lore gain. So if you're going to rely on Gantu to win you the game, you have to ink that one. So there's a world he just plays the removal on the Goat, and then you can turn your stuff sideways and maybe get there.
It's going to be Diablo also questing for 1. Moyen is now only 9 lore away. Somehow they're pulling it off. I think also it has to be said that the amount of cards Bivens has in hand, a little bit unfortunate to not have more access to songs to get some board control back. But Moyen is still in this one somehow. They definitely played it in a way which I've been critical of, and a way I would not have played it personally. But you can start to see why they're doing it. They're going for a bit of board control. They're not just trying to go complete aggro mode. It is aerial. A couple of aerials could come through this turn for Bivens. This is the first. If it hits, you would imagine it might be the only one to come through. Let's have a look. Oh, that is a hit. Storm Rage on or Zeus the options.
Good cards.
Yep. Storm can be sung by Rapunzel, as can the Zeus, but it goes for the Storm, as it can take out that Madam Mim Fox quite smoothly, and of course replace itself with a card draw. See you later, Fox. And the card drawn is another aerial.
Not a bad one. But we don't really have the singers. And then next, so he could commit more singers, and then next turn, double aerial and sing away whatever needs to be sang away.
Daisy challenges Diablo, and Moyen draws a magic broom off of it, which is a pretty nice draw at this moment in time for Moyen. The fact that they have enough ink to play both the broom and the Gantu next turn if they so desire.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So can we commit 5 more lore? We have 3 to 4. We're 1 ink away from being able to commit 5 more lore. We could get to 19 by playing Piglet and Cindy.
Mm-hmm. Is that there's no stout-hearted shift either? I don't think there's a single Floodborn is there in Bivens' list where he could like represent lethal with a shift, because it is open deck list, of course.
Pete, I think it's Pete Cindy to try to make it so Moyen can't fire. I mean, I guess Piglet makes fire the cannons also not good, so it could just be Piglet Cindy. Probably Piglet Cindy.
The Smee's also going to take a damage for Bivens as well, which will put it down. It's going to be Gaston Cindy.
Interesting. Maximum songs. He just wants maximum advantage from these double aerials.
And this is the concern if you're trying to take trades and not quest in this matchup. Like, look at the difference in board state. Like, Moyen's been taking trades with crabs and stuff like this, but to no real avail at this stage. They need to be finishing the game off in the next turn or so. Bivens is only at 8 lore currently. Board not quite questing for 20, as Wonderland said, but Moyen only at 11, can quest up to 12 here. And then get a Gantu and a Broom down, which threatens 5. And the Goat goes, it's 13. It gets him up to like 18 or so. Seems like it might just be a bit short. It's going to be fire the cannons onto Smee.
Do some things.
Is he going to continue to go for control with the Elsa over the Gantu? Because it could take out Cindy. So. And then the other thing, Wonderland, is does he ever draw immediately off the Broom with the Elsa? That's the other thing to consider.
I think he has to, because next turn you don't necessarily want to play, like, if you have to challenge things again, you don't really want to.
I would imagine he waits for the Gantu and he needs to try and get that one extra lore out.
No, you're right.
Which I say after he's already done it, to be fair, but that would be the line I'd take as well.
It would make sense as well, because if he draws removal, removal's bad for you no matter what, right? You're probably losing if he's
Storm Rage on is found, and that is
don't even need the aerial.
Yeah, that's of course the argument to draw immediately with the Broom is that you play around the Storm Rage on. But I think in the position Moyen's in is that they need every last bit of lore, which again comes down. Brings me back to that turn 2 of sacking that Broom somewhat prematurely. Okay, they wouldn't have done that if they had an abundance of ink. But yeah, I was surprised with that Broom decision on turn 2 from Moyen.
So I think we start off with an aerial. It digs the deepest. We figure out what type of removal we get. Because it's quite possible that we'd rather take care of the Goat than the Broom, but there's also a weird world that we might just challenge the Goat. It's unlikely, but I mean, maybe if we whiffed on both aerials. We challenge the broom or challenge the goat and shoot the broom. Oh, yeah, okay.
2 options available. It's Storm or the Zeus. Yet again, the same options. Of course, that Zeus can take out Elsa rather.
Going for the cantrip is a toughish choice, I think. Like, drawing a card's pretty good. So if we're going for more card draw and our opponent only has 1 card in hand, I don't think we're ever grabbing a whole new world. So if we're not grabbing a whole new world, I kind of like the Zeus because it just, like, you can take out Elsa, sing Storm on Broom, and then trade with Goat if you want to. Leave your opponent on 1 card in hand. And you have a couple cards and 5-6 lore, and then you get a quest for 1 or 2. I think that's fairly reasonable. Then again, taking Storm and storming the 2 things, ignoring Elsa, and just committing more lore, you probably win no matter what you do. So it's like, which way do you want to win the game?
Mm-hmm. So it does go for the Storm. Of course, that can be sung by every character on Bivens' side of the board. Gonna sing
Still
with
think I
Rapunzel.
would.
The only one which can quest for 2.
Ariel
Of course,
first.
Singapore.
Because we're almost guaranteed inking Pete or something. Probably Nala now, and still playing the Piglet, right? Because we're at 7 ink, going to go to 8.
So the first Storm polishes off the goat. Moyen gains a lore. Of course, the second Storm is ready and waiting, and it's got the Magic Broom's name on it, I think. Yep. See you later, Magic Broom.
Exasperatedly, like, putting his hands in the air.
Yeah.
Why?
And it's another aerial. 3 aerials on the board. And it's another hit. Which strength of the Raging Fire will he pick? That's the decision.
Which answers the Elsa.
And just sat there with his sad little Gantu. Captain Cranky Head. Moyen is not going to be happy. He's going to blame the deck, and that's fine. No, I think, like, to be fair to Moyen, I think Moyen's had a great run in this tournament. Had it been, you know, the top, I think he's, you know, his record's going to be after this 3 wins, 1 loss, which is really impressive. But
when you're playing against some of the best players in the world, like, very respectable finish.
It's definitely going to be interesting to see his thoughts on how this game played out. I think the first one, there wasn't too much he could have done. Obviously, Bivens going first, but what's the card drawn? It is a Smee, is able to play both, represents a total of 6 lore, which is not going to be quite enough. It's honestly a pretty. It's
1,
not.
2, 3, 4.
It's pretty close still.
Yeah, so I'm just like, can he go Doc?
Ooh.
Goat box?
No, not enough ink, right? Or
if he had Snake in his deck, I think he could do it.
Yeah.
Maybe. Oh, I think he's still off one.
The whole new world here for Bivens does give Moyen a win opportunity as well, I think. If Zach like, whiffs off the whole new world, right, and finds no removal. So you would imagine that Zach's not going to risk playing the whole new world in this position.
With 0 cards in hand, like, I feel like you just have to go Pete, Nala, quest out, go.
Yeah.
Because you're just representing lethal, and you're like, all right, I only lose to gather knowledge, which isn't in the list.
Yeah, it's open list, right? I think Zach's just going to be doing the maths here. Is there anything I can actually lose to dock into something?
If Moyen had 8,
you could lose dock
double,
White Rose,
flower.
No. Yeah.
But you're 1 short.
Yep. And you need all of those cards in the perfect order. You don't just need Dock Double Flower. You need Dock first and then Double Flower. Exactly, right? So very unlikely and not actually an out for Moyen. And Zach's just going to be doing all that maths here, making sure to not make any mistakes. A crucial moment in the game. You can see it does seem as though they're going to just be going for the Pete and Nala. But will they go for the whole new world? Of course, if they do go for the whole new world, would give Moyen the opportunity to draw into more things like White Rose. And if Zach was to miss all of their removal, suddenly Moyen can quest. They would only need that 6 ink to play double White Rose.
He's putting the. Is he putting what he thinks he's gonna draw, or is he putting what he wants to draw? He's like, I need this on the top of my deck. This is what we need to draw.
I think that might be the
Oh, he's putting. I bet it says be prepared. Oh no! Yes, it does. I bet it does. It's like, no, Pete stops my B prep I was gonna draw.
Elsa off the top for Moyen. Not going to do it. Can't answer that whole board for Bivens, who's just 3 away. It's going to be Zach Bivens taking down Moyen. Moyen was undefeated up until this moment. Zach Bivens and Amber Steele's song with the 2-0 victory, both on the play and the draw. Captain Cranky Head, it was his time to shine, but Moyen just a little bit short. Was questing for
Bivens.
6 here up to 18, and that's where every little bit matters.
Dreams.
Every law matters. I think Moyen should have won this game.
I don't know if I would say should have won that game, but it is. I would agree that a more aggressive line would have made it a lot closer, and I don't know who would have won. The whole new world there at the end. If Moyen wasn't winning at that point, it's possible that the whole new world could have done it. I guess he's looking. We could have looked to see what he would have whole new worlded into. It looked like he was worlding into another world, so that could have been interesting.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's join the players for an interview. Do we stay? I guess can you just mute your mic in the video call? Is that okay? And then
yes, I can do that.
Hello. Well, congratulations, Zach. You've taken down Moyen. It took 4 North American players to do it. How are you feeling after that win, Zach?
I mean, I drew pretty well. It was a good matchup, so I feel good.
So, Zach, what was your final record after the group stage? Was it 3 wins, 1 loss, or 2 wins, 2 losses?
It was 3 wins, 1 loss.
Okay.
I faced the only bad matchup for round 1. So we got that one out of the way, and then just won the last 3.
Also, it was against Ding Kang Fam you lost to, wasn't it? Because I was watching that one.
Yeah.
And you lost the die roll in that one as well.
Yeah. I won game 2 miraculously. But,
I remember. So you finished with a 3-1 win with your Amber Steel. And of course, these decks were submitted very early on in the set 6 metagame. How are you feeling about your list with like the Nala, the Gaston, I think being the 2 most interesting cards in there? Are you happy with it? Of course, I know you're not going to want to reveal too much with the North American Championships a month away, so feel free to not go into too much detail, but are you happy with your list overall?
Overall, yes. I think Gaston's still amazing. I think Nala's bad as always, but of course she still fills the role. I think with green-purple gaining so much steam and everything, it used to be a really good matchup, and it's still good, but it's actually losable now, so I think I'm going to explore playing like the resist Mickey in the 1-drop spot just to be able to kill Chernobygs or
Banish.
Yes, okay. Well, banish some Merfolks and Chernobygs. So, but it gets less off for control draw. So yeah, good on experiment there. We'll see.
To green purple in the winning in to get invited to Continentals with Amber Steel. It was always losable, Zach.
It was always losable.
All the Ursula 2s.
The problem now is like they put you on a faster clock. Before you had a lot of time to just top deck a will and then you couldn't lose. But now they have genies questing for so much and everything. So the clock is a lot faster now. So that makes it a lot more losable.
Yeah, you can lose through a wheel now, and that before that was like hard to do.
Yeah, literally before, if you drew a second whole new world after they hit one with Ursula, like you couldn't lose. But the dynamics definitely changed some.
You have to draw that whole new world, though. I do have a question.
Please,
about
take it away.
Game 1.
Yeah.
You kept a piglet. I think it was game 1. You were on the draw?
No. It was game 2.
It was game 2.
Yeah. I did not want to keep that piglet, but my hand was 7 ink, and I didn't want to mulligan 6 and get a bunch of uninkables. So it was literally just because I didn't want to throw back 6 inkables and then get screwed there. So piglet kind of mitigated that. Yeah, it mitigated that, and it gave you a 2-drop if I had to. So it was just like risk mitigation there.
All right.
Right, Moyen. So Moyen, you finished with a record of 3 wins and 1 loss, which might not be enough to make it through with the fact that you've got Artabax 4-0 and Frank Carsten currently 3-0 playing later. What is your overall thoughts on your deck list, having played these 4 rounds after, great record of 3-1? What's the thoughts on the deck overall?
Well, I think I probably faced my 4, like from those 8 decks, I faced my 4 worst matchups with double Emerald Steel, double Ember Steel. Regardless, I think my deck's awful.
I knew he was going to say
There's a bunch of things in the deck that I don't like, and even the color combination I don't think is that great. It was almost good enough to 4 America, which that doesn't say a lot, but
Wow.
That deck's pretty bad. I'm actually no, the games weren't really that playable. But I wasn't expecting that going into it. It was like the Ember Steel Happy Mind deck. Yeah, I can beat that. The Emerald Steel deck, okay, it's unfavored, but it's winnable. This matchup is like the worst one out of these 4 bad matchups.
Yeah.
I'm a bit annoyed. I lost when you keep Piglet on the draw. It sounds pretty bad to me.
Yes, it is bad. I had 7 Inkables though. If I throw back 6 Inkables, I could be screwed.
I understand. I'd still rather do that against like a 4-5 the cannon stack where Cindy won and Daisy and Ursula too. Like that.
Fair.
But,
Moyen, what do you think went wrong for you in this game too? Of course, I think game 1, it's fair to say Zach, ran away with it quite early on, and I'm not sure there was too much you could do. Game 2, I think there was definitely some interesting moments in the first 3 turns or so, which I personally probably would have gone for something different. But like from your perspective, what was the game plan in those first few turns?
I'm interested to see what you would have done different. I think in those first 2 turns, I guess there was no eating decisions.
Let's go from turn 1. Obviously, I have Vonderland and I have the ability to see Zach's hand. So you go for the Magic Broom on turn 1 over a Maleficent. What's the thought process on that one?
That's probably the easiest decision of the game. It was they play 8 1-drops with 1 strength.
Mm-hmm.
They're mulliganing for those 8 1-drops. I'm not keeping or playing a 1 willpower 1-drop on 1.
Yep. I think it was good.
If you run the math on how often they have a 1 strength 1-drop, like I'm not quite sure. It's likely in like the 80ish% ballpark. So if I play the Maleficent 1-drop, if they play a 1 strength 1-drop on turn 2, I immediately lose a lore in comparison where the Broom gets to quest and stay on the board unless I have to maybe banish it for inkability issues, but still I get that 1 lore. Whereas Maleficent's only better if they miss on their 1-drop that has a strength. And then it's 1 more lore than the Broom, but the risk reward is not good for playing Maleficent on 1.
And without Snake in your list, that just gives another it's so hard to, you just don't quest with the Maleficent basically, and at that point it's like, why did I play it when I could have played the Broom instead? So we did kind of speculate that could have been why you did it, and we kind of agreed with that. But the line we did not necessarily agree with was the Fox line.
I think that one was really close. I could even ink the Fox the turn prior and just try to go wide. I was still valuing the Fox a lot. It's like the Fox does a lot when Zach has to sing like Storm Rage on or Strength, when he can't sing a 3 damage Strength or Zeus to banish the Fox, then he still has to do something with the Ursula. He's not on his Ursula turn yet, on the Super Panzer turn yet either. With only 1 character on the board, even a 3 strength isn't that trivial. 3 power, 3 damage strength. So there's a bunch of situations where Zach has to exert the Ursula and Fox gets the trade, and I'm like very rewarded for the Fox line. Whereas the other line would play around the Zeus or 3 damage strength much more, but be worse against like a Storm Mage on type of line.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Obviously you had like with your hand like a concern about the uninkables, and it's something Vonderland and I were sort of talking about before the game started, that if I was to rebuild this deck, and if I was to build it myself as like Amethyst Steel now, I would consider reducing the uninkable count somewhat, because you do end up in these spots where you're anxious about top decking. And was that therefore your uninkable, your lack of ink, was that the reason you popped the broom? Because I was surprised you went for it that turn. I felt as though you had at least one extra turn with that magic broom. So it was turn 2, you pop the broom, and it allows you to ink something different because you had like a Chernobog's and a Fox as your only ink. So you just really valued holding on to those cards rather than having that broom on the board still.
Yeah, it was a mix of two things. It's one, if I don't pop it that turn, then the turn after, if I draw like a dog or a genie or fighter card,
That's what I
then
said.
then I will be forced to ink the Fox, and then I have a very bad turn. But also, of course, by banishing the broom, I might draw an inkable that's currently worse to have in hand than the followers it was. Which is so that, like, it's a mix of both of these things for sure.
It's like, how lucky do you feel?
Yeah, I mean it's also okay. You want to. How often is this play like what under what circumstances is either of these plays better, and how much does that impact my winning chances depending on what cards I draw, and then you have to like kind of make an estimation on what is like the better EV play. I think that one was close with the banishing broom as well. So like the broom line, the Fox line was interesting. Later there was a turn where I can play Gantu to keep me on 2 willpower.
Yeah.
Instead of play like gold 1-drop. But if I do the Gantu play, my next turn is often awful. Whereas the Diablo, I can maybe rush it in to give me a playable turn that keeps me in the game. The other thing was I still had a crab in the deck at the point, and I was like already a little bit behind. That could get me back into the game with the Diablo on the board. Plus, what ended up happening was because I had the goat on the board, I was actually able to play like Fox and replay the goat, which was much better than if I had the Gantu on the board. So there was a few small decisions that were interesting in the game in the second game.
And
Yep.
it kind of seemed that your early decision with the well, obviously in hindsight, the Turnlin Maleficent would have been insane. But like you can't just do that. We talked about how chat's gonna look at it and be like, "Wow, he's so bad" or whatever, and it's just like, no, he just didn't get rewarded for like the heads up play he took, right? Like you don't always get rewarded
was
for those
going back
types
and
of plays.
forth. Like, was it right? But no, I think it's I think it's actually a really high level play. I think like for me, when you watch it back, I'm going to be interested to hear your thoughts on the Magic Broom pop. I was really surprised to see it. I felt like it's better off just inking and hoping then you can pop the broom next turn if you have to. But I think the big one was that Fox turn. I think you ended up then having the whole new world from Zach come through, and you end up discarding double Maleficent. Whereas like you could have, in an ideal world, if you got a bit luckier with your inks, you could add a broom and 3 Maleficents down on the board instead of this. So of course, again, we have the luxury of seeing Zach's hand, which maybe is influencing my opinion on that. So
yeah, so basically, that was the other line where I can also just ink Fox, play like Maleficent followers.
Yeah.
The problem is then it's not just that the Ursula removes. Okay, I flood the board a little bit. I have like 4 characters on the board. Ursula probably things like a Storm or maybe even challenges. But it would force me to ink the Fox. So from this point on, like the Ursula is kind of uncontested singing a song per turn, and I don't want to allow that to happen yet because that can easily snowball to me losing board quickly. And yes, okay, so I play the 1-drop that's worse if they don't play a 1-drop. I play the Fox that's maybe worse into the Zeus and like worse into Holy World, and those are exactly the cards that Zach has. So
sure.
I'm sure if we play open hand, I win that game. But
Sure.
that's
the other thing you could have considered
that's
as well
not
is you go like double Maleficent, and ink the Chernobogs and just hold on to the Fox, which
Yeah.
wouldn't also feel great. But that was like
Yeah.
another thing potentially.
yeah.
And then,
That's like the middle line where I flood the board a little bit, but at least I hold the Fox. That was a consideration, sure.
it was the line I would have went for. I felt that it allowed us to apply pressure but still play conservative. If we hit the dock or the genie or the cannons and we can't ink and play genie if we want to, then we still have the play of getting the Fox and answering the Ursula, and it like allows us to maintain pressure.
Sure. Yeah, I'm sure that
Obviously, we get to
was
see both
based on the plan.
hands, so that's going to have some impact on decisions.
Yeah, I mean, I hope. I mean, it doesn't look good for me, honestly. I won first 3 rounds, but it looks like I have worse tiebreaker than Frank. And there's most matches have been played already, so I didn't calculate it, but maybe even if Frank loses, I'll be third in Europe, maybe even third in total, but still that means no top cut.
You'll make the top cut of our hearts, though. Don't you worry.
Certainly mine. Thank you.
And also,
Bivens,
on the deck. Very cool.
Zach, we do have a little question about a play that you did. I can't remember exactly where this is, but I have Pig or Ursula written down. And I can't remember if that was on an early turn or if that was a later turn.
What do you mean by Pig or Ursula? Like play it or ink it?
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing. Is I think you ended up inking a Pig and playing the Ursula and a Cindy, maybe?
I remember having 2 Ursulas, yeah. Yeah, I think I just need to establish as many singers as possible, especially on the draw against them. Whereas Pig really doesn't do much, and it can get hit by Fire of the Cannons. I'm not really winning by questing aggressively. I have to like slow him down and win. I don't know. Win after I do that.
I think Zach also put me in a bunch of situations where he played it very well, where I would be able to clear the exerted singers, but because he had already just established additional singers behind them, I wasn't really in a position where there's any value in getting rid of the singers either, because I can't get rid of all the unexerted singers every time. And if they went for like a more aggressive line, maybe I can clear the singers and get back into the board.
I've got another one for Moyen as well. When I think after the whole new world came through from Zach, I think you were in a tricky spot. You had like just Maleficent left on the board, and you end up responding with Crab, like onto Maleficent, which obviously can't feel good. And you know, I think at the time I was not too happy to see it, but I can obviously see how you were just trying to stabilize the board, and you weren't far off getting there. Was there ever a world you're just questing with Maleficent and making some other plays, or did you feel like the Crab was forced at that point?
Yeah, it was. I think it was. The reason why it was forced is because Zach already had a board where I'm never winning the race with no possible draws off the top of my deck. If maybe there wasn't like in that as much questing power on their side of the board, and I'm maybe on 2-3 or higher, I can see going for the race. But that was not the case.
All right, Zach. If you make, I think you're qualified now, right? I don't think there's anyone else in NA. Are you free?
Yeah, I should be locked now.
Is there anybody you don't want to play against in the semi-final? So I mean, it's looking like it's going to be Artabax and then either Frank or Moyen. Who would be your ideal semi-final opponent, and who would be your least favorite semi-final opponent out of those three?
I'm okay with all 3. I would prefer not to play Artabax just because Ursula 2 brings a lot of luck involved in the matchup, unfortunately. So yeah, I'm fine with either, but prefer one of the other 2 if I chose.
Awesome. All right. Well, I think that's all from me. Any other questions for Mr. Vonland?
Questions? I think we covered all of those. I was just quickly trying to figure out the times of the rest of the matches today. Looks like R&B and Kawa are playing at 4:30 my time.
Let me have a little look on my phone here.
And Zan and Frank are playing at 3 o'clock my time. I think that's the next 2. There's only 2 more matches, right?
No, there's 3.
There's 3 more. Where's the other one?
There's one more at 2 p.m. Eastern.
So, yep.
You have Dale and Dinkane at 2 p.m. Eastern.
Pretty soon.
That's the next one.
So that one's in an hour and a half. On whose channel is that going to be on? Do we know? I'm not sure.
That is on Meyer's channel, I do believe.
Okay. So yeah, there's more action to look forward to. Well, I'll let you get on, Moyen and Zach. Thanks very much for the game. We appreciate it. Moyen, please don't hate me when you see the cast. You're not going to like me. I'm sorry.
Was there any shout outs that either of you wanted to do before we head out?
Just thank you guys for casting everything. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm all good.
Okay.
All right.
And obviously the staff of judges,
Yeah, big shout out.
Pavel, everyone playing, the players, and of course viewers like you.
Yep.
Yep, GG's.
Well done, everyone. Take care. Thanks very much. All right. All right, Vonderland, thank you very much for joining us. Where can people find you, sir? Because I'm going to have to dip, I think, because I've got some stuff to do, sadly.
Well,
to continue streaming any longer.
You can find me basically on most platforms with just Wonderland 2Vs.
Mm-hmm.
Easy enough to find here on Twitch, all over the place.
See, I've always called you VV Vonderland. Sorry.
My friend, a lot of my friends that like to troll me call me V Wonderland as well.
Okay.
But it's just Wonderland. Or Vonderland. It depends. As long as you're saying it with love and not spite.
Yes. All right, so we're on a bit of a delay, but once the delay finishes, I'm going to go ahead and host Elmeister, who's currently streaming. Wonderland, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for joining me.
Oh yeah, we got to do it again. Hopefully, we'll be doing some ICL stuff together soon.
Yeah, that sounds like a winner. And also, thank you to Card Market, who sponsor my channel, Card Market. I appreciate all of your support. Thank you, Card Market. Thank you, everyone, for watching. We'll see you all very soon. Take care.